Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, episode 370, or episode 5 in the Do Not Be Hasty Reckoning. Greta, speech.
Speech. No, thank you.
No, that's your speech.
That's my speech.
That works.
Good.
Before we begin, we'd like to give a double up air 5 to our amazing fellowship. 3, 2, 1. Whoopst. You kind of did a little dodge
I know.
there.
I get very confused with the
camera.
The camera.
Yeah.
It's like opposite of what. Anyway.
Yeah, you just get used to it over time.
Yeah, but my heart was in it,
Yeah. I can
and
tell
my
your
heart was in
it.
the right place, even if my hands weren't.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Would have been an awkward 5, but your heart was in the right place.
My heart was in the right
Awkward
place.
air 5. Special thanks to this episode's executive producers, Kaitlyn of Tea with Tolkien, John R, Melkor27, and KG. Also a shout out to those celebrating their fellowship anniversary in April of 2024, KG, Terry S, Katie P, Julia, Jonathan D, and Ty M. Thank you all so much for sticking with us over the years. In this episode of Do Not Be Hasty, Bilbo delivers his unforgettable birthday speech and shocking birthday surprise as we continue through Lord of the Rings, Book 1, Chapter 1, A Long Expected Journey.
No. That's a
Long expected party. I keep on doing that. Yeah, a long expected party. It's written as long expected party, but I say long expected journey. Darn first Hobbit film just messed that up for all of us.
SMH.
Yeah. We'll take time to consider every detail of his speech and take time to do the math on the most memorable line of them all. This section begins with the words, "My dear people," and ends with the words, "and slipped out of the pavilion." All right. So, first, let's consider Bilbo's appearance. We talked about silk waistcoats a couple of episodes ago and how they were kind of an anachronism. But I just wanted to consider waistcoats because I don't feel like they're like a particularly like thing that I see people wearing a lot these days. But so I feel like they're kind of a fashion of another. But people still men still do wear them sometimes. You will see them, like in nicer outfits. But
Do you have a picture of them?
Of a waistcoat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering, is it the longer? Are we talking about a longer jacket or a short?
No, it's just like it's a
vest.
Like kind of a vest. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
So,
was called a waistcoat.
let's see.
I always thought, or a waist jacket. I thought it was I thought that was called a vest.
Yeah. So here we go. We'll see an image of Bilbo in his waistcoat here.
From the movie, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'll pull it up on a.
Okay, so it's a vest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are actually worn quite often,
Right.
especially here in the South. I think they're very, very popular.
Yeah. I mean, I see them around. I don't wear them normally, but I see them. I do see them around. So here we go. We'll share this. There you go. There's Bilbo
Not
in
the
his
most
waistcoat.
flattering picture.
Yeah, not the most flattering picture, but you get the idea there. So, so that's a waistcoat. And here's what Hammond and Skoll's Reader's Companion, Lord of the Rings Reader's Companion, our trusty guide that we're using quite a bit in this series so far. This is what this says about his embroidered silk waistcoat. Tolkien does not say where in Middle-earth silk was produced and how the hobbits were able to obtain it, or whether Bilbo's garment was imported or made in the Shire. Tolkien himself, after the success of Lord of the Rings, was able to indulge a personal taste in fancy waistcoats, i.e. close-fitting, waist-length, sleeveless garments in the United States called vests. There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So if you just waited for the note, it would have explained everything.
Well,
But you just had to start asking questions, didn't you, Greta?
I was being a little too hasty.
You were
And
being too
apologize.
hasty.
Should I just see myself out?
Yes. Yes, you're done. You're fired. Okay. Just kidding. All right. So he's also waving one hand in the air, supposedly like he doesn't care. And he has the other hand in his trouser pocket, right? So he's got one hand in the air as he's giving his speech, and he's got the other hand in his trouser pocket. Okay, so that's what he's wearing. That nice embroidered silk waistcoat. Yeah. So there
Does
you
he
go.
have
Or maybe
a-
it's the other hand. It didn't say which hand is which. I don't believe.
That seems like an odd pose to be in for giving a speech. You would think you'd have both hands in your pocket or at your side.
Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe it is supposed to seem like an odd pose,
Okay.
right?
All right. That's fair.
Because what's he doing with his hand in his pocket, right?
Well, obviously, he's playing with the ring.
That's right. Exactly. I think that's supposed to be what it indicates.
But I'm saying, why I understand the hand in the pocket. What I don't understand is, maybe waving. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Waving one hand in the air. Yes.
Like instead of with both hands, he's
Right.
only talking with one. Okay.
Yeah. It says Bilbo left his place and went and stood on a chair under the illuminated tree. The light of the lanterns fell on his beaming face. The golden buttons shone on his embroidered silk waistcoat. They could all see him standing, waving one hand in the air. The other was in his trouser pocket.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Okay.
There's the full context.
That makes much more sense. Thank you.
All right. Then we get this longer list of names. So we kind of considered some of the Hobbit names in the last episode. We get this longer list of names here. My dear Bagginses and Boffins, and my dear Tooks and Brandybooks and Grubbs and Chubbs and Burrowses and Hornblowers and Bulgers, Bracegirdles, Good Bodies, Brockhouses, and Proudfoots. And that's where we get the infamous Proud Feet. Right?
Proud feet.
Right. And there is actually a note in the Reader's Companion on foots versus feet as well.
Oh, I like that.
All right. Thus, Bilbo's Proudfoots is corrected, but Bilbo repeats Proudfoots. Tolkien is making a linguistic joke about the moral of foot. About the plural of foot, which
The moral
of the foot. The plural of foot, which does not simply take an S and become foots, but changes form to become feet, like goose and geese. Mm-hmm. The Old English word for foot is foot, plural feet, fate. I can't read it. Feet, derived from Germanic fotis, which underwent e mutation, whereby the vowel sound changed to long e. So, I mean, when is Tolkien not making linguistic jokes, right? So, but yes, he is very clearly making a having fun with the fact that instead of saying foots, which would seem normal, we say feet. And I think this is one of the things when I hear about people, I think we're in a way we're blessed to be native English speakers because this stuff just all kind of comes naturally to us since we grew up speaking this language. But I hear from people who have to learn English as a second language that it's a very challenging language to learn.
I'm sure.
Actually,
there's so many influences.
Well, exactly. There's so many. It's kind of a later language, and at least in the form it has now, it brings in so much from so many different sources. So it's kind of like a sponge. Like it just picks up all of this stuff from different places and incorporates it into it, and it's not particularly systematic, right? And the way it kind of plays out.
Right.
So you get things like, shouldn't it be proud foots? No, it's proud feet, right? Actually, so.
But that's actually kind of interesting to me to think about because Proudfoot is a last name, right? So when you're making the plural of someone's last name, it makes sense to just add an S.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you were talking, if proud was an adjective describing the foot, then yes, it would make sense to say a proud feet if you wanted to talk about more than one foot. But because proud and foot are one word and it's a last name, it makes more sense to me to just have an S on the end.
The Proudfoots.
So I commend Bilbo, and I agree with him repeating Proudfoots.
Well, I mean, I think it really is an interesting sort of argument, right? Because it's like, because you bring in that it's a surname. It's not just about like, he's very proud feet, right? It's like, what is the right way of pluralizing that as a surname,
as
right?
a surname.
And I mean, my thought would be actually to say Proudfoots, right? Like it's there. Oh, we're going over to the Proudfoots to have dinner, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny that this particular representative of the Proudfoot family insists that it's proud feet, right?
Can we also just stop and make note of the fact that this individual whose last name is Proudfoot also currently has both of his feet on the table?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is a very fancy, proper party.
Right.
And he has his feet on the table.
I wouldn't say it's fancy. I wouldn't say it's fancy and proper. I mean, it sounds like this is a big party in a field, and I know we talked about it being like sort of the size and significance of like a wedding reception, but I don't feel like it's sort of the elegance and the grace of a wedding reception, if you will.
Okay, maybe not.
Right?
Okay, but to my point, Bilbo is wearing a waistcoat.
Sure.
which is fancy.
Yeah, but I think he always wore waistcoats.
Okay, but all I'm saying is, regardless of, anyway, any party, even if it's fancy or not,
Yeah.
it is not proper etiquette to have both of your feet up on a table that you've literally just been eating food off of.
Except,
All that.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
just saying, the
I thought you
fact
were done. I'm
that
sorry.
Mr. Proudfoot has both of his feet on the table immediately
Yeah.
causes me to not trust his linguistic abilities.
Okay.
Takes him down a notch in the
Okay.
intelligence factor, in my estimation.
But shouldn't, as the one who bears this name, shouldn't he have a say in what the correct like the correct form of that name is?
Maybe, but that doesn't change the fact that he's probably drunk and also has both of his feet on the table where he was just eating food from.
But I think he's insisting on the fact that they're named the Proudfoots because they're proud of their feet, right?
They're proud of both of their feet.
They're proud. Feets?
Foots.
They're proud of their feet, right? Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, it just sounds weird. Like, we're going over to the Proud Feet to have dinner. Like, that just sounds weird. Like,
Well,
it should be, we're going over to the Proudfoots.
Yeah.
It's the same issue like when your last name ends with an S. That always confuses me.
I know.
Like, how do you pluralize people whose last name ends with S?
Yeah.
Ugh.
We have friends whose last name ends with I, and I always get tripped up.
Yeah,
by it because if you just add an S to it, it becomes another word.
It does, because the
Yeah.
S changes the pronunciation of the I.
Yeah. And it literally becomes a word that's like, part of, like, it's like another word.
Right.
So I never
Yeah.
know what to say when I'm pluralizing their last name. So
Well, we
or
know
how
what to
write it.
say. We
I
don't know
what
how to
say.
spell it.
I just know how to spell it. Exactly.
Right,
You need
exactly.
apostrophes. Apostrophes are helpful. But
But then apostrophes have to do
What do you
with
think?
possession.
hey, everybody, we want to know comments. All right. Is it Proudfoot or Proud Feet? Proudfoots or Proud Feet?
Proudfoots.
Are you Team Proudfoot?
I'm Team Proudfoots.
Proudfoots or Team Proud Feet? All right. Let us know. Comments. All right.
Do you have a team?
I think I would go with Proud Feet since he insists on that so much.
So you got to choose between us, guys.
I just feel like this I believe it's Odo Proudfoot. I believe he's making a point that their name is Proudfoot, that they are the proud because they're the people of the proud feet, right? As he displays them on the table.
But I think it's very funny that Bilbo repeats Proudfoots.
Yes. Right.
I'm sorry. I'm Team Proudfoots and I'm Team Bilbo.
Very well.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's let the audience help us out with settling this one. All right.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, Proudfoots, repeated Bilbo. Also, my good Sackville Bagginses that I welcome back at last to Bag End. Today is my 111th birthday. I am 11 today. Hooray, hooray. Many happy returns, they shouted, and they hammered joyously on the tables. Bilbo was doing splendidly. This was the sort of stuff they liked. Short and obvious. And the next part is great here. All right. So, Greta, would you like to read this next paragraph?
I'd love to.
All right.
I hope you all are enjoying yourselves as much as I am. Deafening cheers. Cries of yes and no. Noises of trumpets and horns, pipes and flutes, and other musical instruments. There were, as has been said, many young hobbits present. Hundreds of musical crackers had been pulled. Most of them bore the mark Dale on them, which did not convey much to most of the hobbits, but they all agreed they were marvelous crackers. They contained instruments, small, but of perfect make and enchanting tones. Indeed, in one corner some of the young tooks and brandybucks, supposing Uncle Bilbo to have finished, since he had plainly said all that was necessary, now got up an impromptu orchestra, and began a merry dance tune. Master Everard Took and Miss Melliot Brandybuck got on a table, and with bells in their hands began to dance the Springle Ring, a pretty dance, but rather vigorous. But Bilbo had not finished. Seizing a horn from a youngster nearby, he blew 3 loud hoots. The noise subsided. I shall not keep you long, he cried. Cheers from all the assembly. I have called you all together for a purpose. Something in the way that he said this made an impression. There was almost silence, and 1 or 2 of the tooks pricked up their ears.
All right. So a lot of things I want to note in this section. So we've talked about crackers in the last couple of because of fireworks in the last couple of episodes.
Sorry, can we just stop and
Yeah.
go back just a little bit?
Yeah.
Why would someone cry no? Like, how could they not be enjoying
They're
themselves
they're-
at this party?
They're being silly, right? They're just like, everybody's like, yes, you know, they're all like, they've all had too much to drink and they're full of food and
Okay.
they're rowdy and,
Okay.
you know, and everybody's like, yes, yes. And there's always going to be those jokers and they're like, no, we're having a horrible time. You know, like,
Okay.
I mean, have you ever been to a party? Come on. Like, you know, like a big rowdy party. That's how it is.
I always
right?
behave myself at parties, and I never do
I know, you would never
anything
do
that
that
could
'cause you
be
feel like it's-
misinterpreted by the host as
You feel like
being
it's
rude.
weird, but I guarantee there are people, you know,
I,
at larger
I
parties.
can
that-
see among the hoodlum crowd that
Yeah.
yes, maybe that would be appropriate.
But it's not that they're not having a good time. They're just being silly, right? They're just having fun,
silly.
right?
Okay. Got it.
But we have crackers, which are musical crackers. So I'm like, I guess these are just some kind of noisemakers. You know, like, I don't know if they're like you know, sticks that like, you know,
Yeah,
do
it
this,
was-
like,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's so funny where it says so Bilbo says, I hope you all are enjoying yourselves as much as I am, and they start making all this noise and keep going, and it says, indeed, in one corner, some of the young tooks and brandybucks, supposing Uncle Bilbo to have finished, since he had plainly said all that was necessary. I just love that. Like they're like, great speech, all right.
Right? Yep.
I hope you all are enjoying yourselves as much as I am. Great speech, woohoo, we're done.
Yeah, we're
Yay,
done.
Let's have fun.
Yes.
Right? I just think that's like Tolkien just passes over like these little things, these little details.
Yeah.
But they're so funny.
They are funny.
You know?
They're very funny.
They're so funny, and they're so they paint such a wonderful picture of like the hobbits, and you know, their penchant for just having a good time, for having fun.
Yep.
And then I just love I don't so I'm going to read a little bit about the Springle Ring here, because I kind of just want to see the Springle Ring, because I'm like, what is this?
I think we need to learn it and then
sounds like fun.
demonstrate it.
Is it actually a thing, right? So Springle Ring. Yeah. In nomenclature, Tolkien notes that Springle Ring is an invention, the name of which a translator should render by something in the language of translation, which implies a vigorous ring dance in which dancers often leaped up. In Tolkien's poem Bombadil Goes Boating, in The Adventures of Tom Bombadil and other verses from the Red Book, Farmer Maggot's daughters did the Springle Ring, Goodwife did the laughing. In the second draft version of Book 1, Chapter 1, the dance is called the Flip Flap, a step dance of the 19th century. So it started as the Flip Flap, which is an actual dance, right? A step dance of the 19th century, and becomes the Springle Ring, which is something that Tolkien made up. And so, yeah, I just feel like the Springle Ring actually needs to exist as a dance.
I totally agree.
It sounds, it's just I don't know. I just love the name.
I do too. So wait, did the Flip Flap become the Springle Ring?
Well, in
Or
the
the Springle Ring is just Tolkien's name for the Flip Flap.
No.
No.
So when he was writing it in the early drafts, he called it the Flip Flap.
He made up
He
the
said they
Flip
were doing
Flap?
the Flip Flap. No, it was the Flip Flap was an actual dance,
okay.
right? It was a step dance of the 19th century. But I guess he didn't want to use an actual dance, or he came up with Springle Ring and liked that. So
we actually don't know what the Springle Ring is?
yeah, it's just supposed to be a pretty dance, but rather vigorous, right? Is the idea there? Right?
I'm trying to reconcile those two adjectives in my brain, like a pretty dance, but rather vigorous.
Yeah.
Like I'm having a hard time with that, because I feel like a pretty dance, it's hard to be vigorous and be pretty at the same time.
What, were you just doing the robot?
No, I was thinking, I was having like scenes of like, you know, like Pride and Prejudice go through my brain, and they like do these very slow, pretty dances where they're like, you know, giving their hands to each other and they're twirling. So I'm trying to picture that being done vigorously, which is very hard for me.
Well,
to
I
do.
feel like
maybe it's like a Virginia reel or something.
Yeah, maybe something like that. I mean,
Although
I feel
it's
like
just two people.
I feel like
so...
a lot of like ballets I see, there are certain dances that I would describe as pretty but vigorous.
That's fair.
You know? Like,
that's fair.
I mean, it takes a lot. Like, you have to be an outstanding athlete to be like a, you know, a ballerina or whatever the male equivalent of ballerina is. You have to be like extremely in extremely good shape to do that.
Yeah, that absolutely, for sure. Maybe it's kind of like a do-si-do kind of thing. Like a square dance can be very pretty, but also very vigorous.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something like that. I just love that they got up on a table to dance.
It doesn't say
I just
like
love
a
that.
beautiful, graceful dance. It just says a pretty dance,
pretty,
right?
Which means not ugly.
Yeah, well, it just means like it's probably nice to look at, right? You know? But like,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't mean it's like the most like
elegant,
you know, of all things.
thoughtful.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I just would love to see some like what the Springle Ring actually looks like. So it's a very evocative name to me, is what I'm signifying. And I love the like just the vision of like these like young hobbits, these young Tooks and Brandy Bucks are all like, let's just, they just start playing instruments and like start making music while Bilbo's still trying to make his speech, and then this couple does the Springle Ring, and Bilbo has to grab a horn from somebody and blow on it 3 times to get them to listen.
That actually is very comical.
So beautiful chaos.
And then he changes his last name to Hornblower. So
that's right. Yep. There you go. That Hornblower name.
There it is.
That's maybe he has some Hornblower in him somewhere
obviously
further
he
back.
does, because it worked. He got their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's good at it. Good at blowing the horn.
Yep.
All right. So we get to next. We get to probably the most memorable part of Bilbo's speech. He says, "I've called you all." He says, "I shall not keep you long. I've called you all together for a purpose. Indeed, for 3 purposes. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you all, and that 11 years is too short a time to live among such excellent and admirable hobbits," and tremendous outbursts of approval. And here it is. "I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve." This was unexpected and rather difficult. There was some scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out and see if it came to a compliment.
Okay, this is like hard enough to figure out sober. Can you imagine like all the drunk people there like trying to figure this out?
I know. It's just like you just see them like looking up in the air, like trying to do the math. Like
they're like trying to picture it. They're
like using their hands, like counting on their fingers. Wait, so anyway,
and fractions just automatically make things more difficult anyway. So,
right. I mean, this is one of the best lines ever for me. It does work out as a compliment. And so let's do the math on that.
Okay.
He knows half of them less than he would like to, right? So
wait,
if I say
I don't know.
No. Yeah, half. Right. He says, "I don't know half of you half as well as I should like." So if you, so he's basically saying, "I know half of you
as well as I should like."
Half as well as I should like, right?
Oh, okay. I know.
So let's just simplify that. He knows half of them less than he would like to, right? Which is a compliment. He's saying like, "I'd like to know you better."
Okay.
Right. I'd like to know. I'd like to know you better.
That makes
right?
sense. Yes.
And then he says, "I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve," right? So this is also a compliment, but it's a little bit backhanded, right? He's saying he really should like them more than he does, right? So there's some ambiguity in it. So he could be saying like, "You're such great people. I like you already, but I should like you even more," right? Or he
like
could
if I knew them better,
right?
I would like
or
them
he
more.
Could be saying like, "I don't really like you, but I'm sure the fault is on my side," right? So it's like more of a backhanded
because he doesn't know them. Because he didn't take the time.
No, well, no. In this case, this is about liking the people, right? So the first half we've established is a compliment.
I know, but I'm wondering if they're linked. Okay, because like, if you know someone well, then assuming that you guys get along, you're gonna like them more, right? But maybe I'm wondering if is it because he doesn't know them as well as he would like to? Is that why he doesn't like them as much as they deserve to be liked?
I think you made it even more confusing.
I did.
I just think you can take it like as 2 separate things.
Two separate things. Okay, that's fair.
I mean, it's possible that the 2 groups overlap.
Yeah.
But I think if you take them as separate groups, then it all works out to a compliment. Just the second half is like a backhanded compliment.
Okay, that's fair.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve.
Yes.
So he likes more than half of them as much as they deserve?
Yeah, so I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve. He's saying I like more than half of you more than you
Sorry, I shouldn't have asked
this is where you're like conjecturing from things he didn't actually say. But again, that's the fun of it, right? Like it all seems to work out as a compliment, right? In the optimistic sense, but because Bilbo put it in this way, he's leaving people just very confused about it. And you wonder if like we don't really know how much of this Bilbo is just like came up with beforehand to say, or is he just sort of rambling because he's nervous up in front of all these people and he knows he's about to play this big trick and that's what he's up there to do. So that's what makes it all so much fun. It's like we don't really know what his motives are behind all of this, but we also kind of suspect that Bilbo like isn't particularly fond of all the hobbits in the Shire, like because we know that a lot of them don't really like him a whole lot, or at least view him with a lot of suspicion. So he's probably, having lived in the Shire for 111 years, he's probably kind of like, I'm about done with most of you people, right? So anyway, but at least the words themselves, you can argue, all come out to a compliment. It's just the second half seemed to be a backhanded compliment.
Yep.
That's how I view it. I can see other people reading it different ways for sure, but for me, it certainly seems to come out to a compliment.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's also important to note that it's Frodo's birthday too, right? So Frodo was apparently popular with the younger hobbits, as we see when Bilbo mentions that it's Frodo's birthday as well. He says, secondly, to celebrate my birthday. I should say our birthday, for it is, of course, also the birthday of my heir and nephew, Frodo. He comes of age and into his inheritance today. Some perfunctory clapping by the elders, and some loud shouts of Frodo, Frodo, jolly old Frodo from the juniors. The Sackville Bagginses scowled and wondered what was meant by coming into his inheritance. Together we score 144. Your numbers were chosen to fit this remarkable total. One gross, if I may use the expression. No cheers. This was ridiculous. I love that, right?
Wait, was the expression ridiculous, or the fact that nobody cheered was ridiculous?
No, I think the expression. I think when Tolkien narrates this was ridiculous, I think he's narrating the attitude of the crowd.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Gotcha.
Like, this is getting
sense.
ridiculous.
That makes
Stop
sense.
with your stupid speech. This is getting ridiculous.
Okay.
You just called us. You just said you brought us all here because we equal one gross, right?
Is that an actual term? Like gross?
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
Yeah. I don't really think anybody uses it in that sense. I think there's like gross tons and that kind of thing, which may have something to do with it. But I feel like they're like, and a lot of the English like sort of systems of weight and measurement, like 12 was a much more important than 10, much more important number than 10, right?
Gotcha.
So 144 would be 12 times 12, right?
12 squared.
So yeah, I think I think that's that gross was meant, maybe has something to do with like gross tonnage. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but and other things like that. So
yeah,
you think like dozen and that kind of thing. One thought that occurred to me with their ages, 111 and 133, also adding up. But we talked about the significance of those ages, and like from a numerological perspective, and I hadn't thought yet about the gross and the 144 being 12 times 12, and 12 times 12 are also both like very significant like 12 is certainly a very significant number in the Bible, right? So you have the 12 tribes of Israel. You have the 12. You have the 12 who are the closest followers of Jesus in the Gospels. And then you have these numbers like 144,000 shows up in the book of Revelation when it comes to like, and that being 12 times 12 and kind of signifying. Most people interpret it to signify kind of like a perfect number, right? So 12 is kind of like a perfect number, and say 12 times 12 would be like a even more perfect number, right? Like a vastly perfect number, right?
That makes sense.
So anyway, the numerology just keeps
I know.
going,
I never even thought about their ages added together.
Yeah.
Like that. I just that's something I didn't pay attention to before.
Right.
Yeah. It's cool.
All right. He briefly recounts his lonely mountain journey, and then poof, he's gone. Now, let's talk about the banquet at Esgaroth real quick, because I had not remembered this from The Hobbit, but it did happen. So here's what it says in the Reader's Companion about Esgaroth and the banquet at Esgaroth. Let's see here.
Was it mentioned in The Hobbit? The banquet?
Yeah, it is.
So this is like where he's like, yeah, I remember this part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It says, in The Hobbit, Bilbo's companions are captured by wood elves in Mirkwood, while he himself uses his magic ring to become invisible. He frees the dwarves from captivity by hiding them in barrels being taken by river to Lake Town, also known as Esgaroth. Thorn, Oak, and Shield proclaims his return as king under the mountain, and he and the others are feted by the people. Bilbo, however, has a shocking cold. For 3 days he sneezed and coughed, and he could not go out. And even after that, his speeches at banquets were limited to "Thank you very much." Right. So there were banquets there. He just wasn't really very much a part of them. It turns out.
Because
by the
he
way,
was sick.
Yeah. By the way, there's a note here on musical crackers too. I know we talked about that before,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I hadn't
yeah.
realized. It says in this context, paper cylinders, which when pulled apart made a noise like a firework and release toys, sweets, or other small party gifts. They're an essential part of a typical British Christmas celebration. Those at Bilbo's party are musical. They contain trumpets and horns, pipes and flutes, and other musical instruments, a parallel to the dwarves' fiddles, flutes, drums, clarinets, viols, and harp in the unexpected party of The Hobbit, Chapter 1. Yeah. So
is it kind of like those things that you blow on that they like when they unroll, they go toot, that kind of thing? You know what I'm talking about? I forget what those are called.
I'm really, I still am kind of confused about how this works. So I'm going to, let's see, party, cracker, British. Let's see. Okay, so.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like I've seen these before. Yeah. Okay. I think I've seen that. That's what I kind of envisioned in that description was this like shape, and you pull them apart and it like pops, right? So let me share my screen here. Yeah. So you can see a lot of different images of party, cracker, British here. That's maybe a good like representative image right there. Let's see. You can see ones that are done up like little creatures there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So not what I was picturing in my head at all.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool. And they had little musical instruments in them. So once you pulled them apart, that's where the instruments came from. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. So what an exit, right? So Bilbo,
we didn't get to the exit.
He quickly finishes his speech. You're right. Let's read it. Let's actually go through and consider his last words here.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
And also, you said it wrong. It's thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's the butch.
Butch. All right.
Thank you very much.
He says, thirdly and finally, I wish to make an announcement. He said, he spoke his last words so loudly and suddenly that everyone sat up who still could. He says, thirdly and finally, I wish to make an announcement. I regret to announce that, though, as I said, 11 years is far too short a time to spend among you, this is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye. So, very abrupt ending to his speech, and he disappears. It says he stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat back speechless. Old Odo Proudfoot removed his feet from the table and stamped. Then there was a dead silence until suddenly, after several deep breaths, they all began to talk at once. And they all agree that the joke is in very bad taste. And then more food and drink is immediately served.
There's more food and drink.
Yeah.
It cures many wounds.
It's so funny to me that he just like disappears in front of them all, and they're like stunned for a moment, and they're like, "Oh, whatever. Let's just keep eating and drinking."
Yeah. We need food and drink so that we can feel better about how all of this ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it mentions here old Rory Brandybuck, right? So it says, it says for the moment most of them took it for granted that his disappearance was nothing more than a ridiculous prank, but old Rory Brandybuck was not so sure. Neither age nor an enormous dinner had clouded his wits, and he said to his daughter-in-law, Esmeralda, "There's something fishy in this, my dear. I believe that Mad Baggins is off again. Silly old fool. But why worry? He hasn't taken the victuals with him." He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine round again. So Rory Brandybuck is the patriarch of the Brandybuck family that had taken Frodo in. So he is actually Frodo's uncle. Rorimac Brandybuck, and he was the brother of Frodo's mother, Primula, right?
Okay.
So
okay,
yeah. So and then how Rory relates to Mary. So Rory is the grandfather of Mary. So he has Rory has 2 children, Redhawk and Merrimack. Wait a minute, am I looking at the right one here? Because then his daughter here, his daughter-in-law Esmeralda. There we go. So Redhawk, one of his children, is married to Esmeralda Took, and that's the daughter-in-law that's referred to here.
And that's Mary's mom.
Mary's mother.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
And so Redhawk would be his father, and Rory would be his grandfather.
His grandfather.
Right. Yeah.
But there's no mention of Mary being here at this feast, right?
No, but I would assume he is. Right.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
I would assume he's probably around. So yeah. And then Frodo, with all of this going on, he is really kind of bummed by the whole thing, right? It says sometimes he had sat silent beside Bilbo's empty chair and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty in keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests, but at the same time he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking and discussing Bilbo Baggins' oddities, past and present, but the Sackville Bagginses had already departed in wrath. Frodo did not want to have any more to do with the party. He gave orders for more wine to be served, then he got up and drained his own glass silently to the health of Bilbo, and slipped out of the pavilion. So Frodo's reaction to all of this is pretty different from the rest of the hobbits. He's pretty, I guess he was in on the joke. He kind of knew something was coming, but maybe he realizes that now that it's arrived, it's kind of a bummer, right? Because he is very fond of Bilbo, right?
Yeah, and now it's real,
yeah.
Right? Like his absence it's real.
Yes.
He feels it. Yeah.
Indeed. So, and I think this is an interesting little passage here because it shows very early on that Frodo, he's a little bit more. He maybe has a little bit more of a melancholic nature than the rest of the hobbits.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
yeah,
just an interesting, maybe an interesting little note about that short paragraph right there.
Mm-hmm. He took care of his people, though. He gave orders for more wine to be served before he left. So.
Yep. Yeah. So Greta.
Yeah.
That's about all I got. What did I miss?
Yeah. I don't think anything. I think it was really good.
All right.
Do you think you missed something?
Nope.
Okay.
I think I got it all.
All right.
I think I wasn't hasty. All right. Bilbo's tricksy move at the end of his birthday speech is all part of his master plan to make a memorable exit from Hobbiton and the Shire. At the same time, and unbeknownst to him, it is perhaps part of an even greater plan, Gandalf's, to get to the bottom of some very important matters. In the next episode, we'll consider Gandalf's confrontation of Bilbo after his abrupt exit, and Gandalf's motivations for doing so. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider supporting us in one or all of the following ways.
First, join the Fellowship of the Road by visiting patreon.com/TolkienRoad. When you join the Fellowship of the Road, it helps us to keep on evering on and lands you some cool perks along the way. Learn more at patreon.com/TolkienRoad.
Second, if you're watching, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what's on your mind in the comments below.
Finally, subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes or the platform of your choice. If you are a 5-star fan of the Tolkien Road, you can really help us out by heading over to iTunes or your preferred source for the show and dropping us a rating and review. When you do that, it helps get the word out about the Tolkien Road, which helps us to keep on evering on.
As always, keep the correspondence coming. We'll do our best to respond to you somehow and at some point. With Don't Be Hasty, we'll let the mail pile up and then do a big mailbag episode at the end of each chapter. We can't promise you that it will be read on air, but we'll do our best, and some correspondents most certainly will.
Don't forget to stop by truemythspress.com for great merch like super styling and comfy Tolkien Road t-shirts, 2 Trees camper mugs, and signed copies of John's books. Once again, that's truemythspress.com. Thanks for supporting our work with your purchase.
To close, as always, we'd like to thank our amazing fellowship. We know all of you half as well as we should like, and we've thanked less than half of you half as well as you deserve. Special thanks to the following: John R.,
Kaitlyn of Tea with Tolkien,
Melkor 27,
KG,
Emilio P,
Jonathan D,
Richard K,
Paul D,
Julia,
Werty,
Chris B,
2War91,
Carolyn S,
Emiel K,
Brian O. II,
Jonathan R,
Matthew W,
Daniel D,
Harrison C,
Seb M,
Ms. Anonymous,
Andrew T,
Redhawk,
Shannon S,
Brian O. I,
Zeke F,
James L,
Chris L,
Asya V,
Ish of the Hammer,
Teresa C,
David of Pints with Jack,
and Eric B.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. We truly appreciate all of you, all of our fellowship. And thanks to everybody for watching and or listening. We will talk at you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.